Linda, who lives in the East Riding of Yorkshire, and this is my podcast about my handmade life. You can find me on Instagram as Louleigh_ and Ravelry as Louleigh, and I have an Etsy shop called Shop Louleigh where I make knitting bags and needle cases, or you can find links to all of my online places at louleigh.com. Yeah. Hi, welcome. I'm sitting here wondering what I'm going to talk to you about today, because I have been pretty monogamous with one of my projects and flirting with a lot of other projects. I've pulled them out and done a bit, but not really enough to talk about. But anyway, I think I have a show, so here we go. So the first thing I have to talk about is community news, and in the Louleigh Ravelry group we have a couple of things going on at the moment. The first is the Simple Socks Cowl, which comes to an end at the end of June, so in a few days time. So if you're knitting a pair of socks from my Simple Socks collection, then get them photographed and put them into the finished objects thread, and you'll be in to win a skein of my hand-dyed yarn. I have been working away on socks with ventilation. I think last time I just finished the first sock, and in all honesty the second sock is not looking, this is one of the things that I flirted with this week, the second sock is not looking hugely exciting, but hopefully I shall finish in time. Well, I can't enter my own cowl, but at least I shall finish with everybody else that does enter. And as I say, you're in to win a skein of my hand-dyed yarn. The other thing we have going along in the Louleigh Ravelry group is the Stash Appreciation Society, which is a year-long knit-along about appreciating the things that we have in our stash. If you have finished objects that are knitted from, I think it's 60% stash, then you can enter them in for a pattern prize, which is drawn on the 1st of the month. And this month that's been donated by Meg from Mrs. M's Curiosity Cabinet, who has a really good podcast that I can highly recommend. And this week, well, a couple of weeks ago, I did something a bit interesting with my stash. I have had a yarn in there that I got on special a while ago, and it is, let me just get the tag. It was Blacker Yarns Ryedale. I'm not sure if Ryedale is actually a Downs breed, but it has a similar feel to it. I think it might be a cross. I should look that one up so I can actually give you some better information than just maybes and whatnot. But yeah, so I bought this on special from Blacker a while ago, and it was just in a natural colour, which is whitish, for Ryedale, thinking that I would knit myself a Botom Cardigan. But it was kind of a milky colour, sort of a milky yellowy colour, that, and I guess my skin tone is kind of a milky yellowy colour, and the two together just didn't look particularly flattering. And so I've had this in my stash for quite a while and wasn't sure what to do with it. So I got in touch with a lovely chum of mine, it's Sylvie from Phileas Yarns, and asked her to dye the yarn in one of her standard colours. I think well, the thing is that just because you're using a standard colour, if you put it on a different base, it can come out really, really differently. If you've tried dyeing yarns, you'll know just how different it can be. Even the difference between dyeing on merino and Ryedale can be huge. And so, not Ryedale, BFL. Yeah, the difference between between the way dye takes on BFL is a little bit different from merino, and so I said to Sylvie that I didn't expect this to come out exactly the same way as it does on her yarn basis, and I was just prepared to take that risk with it. But it's actually come out really similarly, and I've forgotten what the name of the colour is, but it's this lovely, she has a beautiful soft terracotta colour in her shop that she usually dyes on a BFL nylon. I want to get them all out and sit here holding them all. There we go, so she dyed it up. I think it's actually on my screen, it's looking a bit redder than it does in real life, but it has come out this lovely terracotta colour, and I definitely feel a lot more, well, that's a bit better. I definitely feel a lot more enthusiastic about this colour than I did about the previous version. And so over dyeing the yarn has really given it a new lease of life for me. I have a pattern idea that I want to try out, but I have enough things cast on at the moment, so I won't be casting that on immediately. I did start swatching for it. I wound up a little ball with one of the smaller skeins. There was one ball that I think I'd snagged and it had a couple of breaks in it, so I had a couple of smaller skeins, so I wound it up and I did try swatching with it, but I wasn't quite getting a fabric that I liked, or a gauge that kind of matched the pattern that I had in mind, so I've undone that ready for next time. But yeah, so that I thought was a really cool way of reinvigorating a yarn that I wasn't really in love with it, and now not only do I really like the colour, but it's this really beautiful hand-dyed yarn. I feel like she's really added value, so I was so pleased with that. For the Stash Appreciation Society, we also have the summer challenge going on, and for this you can enter, there is a Finish Objects thread and you can chat it in the Stash Appreciation Society chatter thread. But for this challenge you can do anything with your yarn that is not knitting and crochet and enter it in that thread for a prize, and I shall draw that. I shall determine what the prize shall be and then draw that at the end of August. So yeah, if you have any cool ideas about things that you'd like to try out that aren't knitting or crochet but still use yarn, then yeah, share them on the chatter thread and show us your finished objects. That would be really awesome. I have a couple of ideas, but I'm just going to keep them to myself until I have a go at them, and then I can come and show you. This week the only thing that I've actually put any real sort of progress on has been my kofta from Kofta Bookings. It's the Botom Cardigan, which is this cardigan on the front, and this book is actually in Norwegian, but all of the patterns are charted, and so I have been using Google Translate and just winging it a bit to knit this cardigan, which is maybe why I'm on to knitting my second yoke, but we won't talk about that catastrophe again. So yes, and so I had got to the end of the yoke and I was onto this checked section, and I had thought that this bit was probably going to be a bit arduous because it's just a lot of the same, and there are no, in the yoke there's some rest rows where it's all one colour, whereas with this there are, once you get into this check section, there are no rest rows. The other thing is that the squares are all kind of 5 stitches wide, and so I was going to have to sort of carry my floats. The floats were going to be quite long and I was going to have to weave them in as I go, which I thought might be quite arduous too. But actually it's turned out to be a bit like knitting self-striping socks. You get to a set of checks and you just think, oh, I'll do a bit more. So I haven't had a lot of knitting time this week, but I am already on to my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my 6th row of checks, And I did actually think last night as I was knitting away that I should sit down and work out actually how many rows of checks I'm going to need before it's long enough. I did actually try on the yoke as well before I split for the torso, just to make sure it fitted, and I've been thinking that I should probably do that again. There are parts of me that are a bit wider as it sort of gets longer. So yeah, I just want to put it on one more time as I get down the torso to make sure there's enough room in the girth. Also with the check pattern, I was like in the yoke, I keep moving about and poor old camera's trying to focus. Right, so in the yoke I had got the tension on my floats at the back pretty even, and I was quite happy with the way that that had turned out. But this is looking a bit ripply, but I'm guessing because, I mean, I've not pulled them so tight that it doesn't stretch, so I'm hoping that that will even out when I block it, and yeah, just even out the stitches and make it look nice. But I'm just completely addicted to those rows of checks. I'm sure by the time I get to the end of the torso I might be a little sick of them maybe, but you know, at the moment I'm enjoying it, which doesn't make terribly good viewing for you guys because I'm likely to sit here next week and say, this is all I've done this week. Yeah, and I love the book. I love the koftas in the book, and I'm already planning 2 more. I think it's partly choosing the colour. It's a little bit like, for me it's a little bit like making a mood board for like interior designers do when they, you know, show off how your room is going to look. They have a mood board with all the little samples and whatnot on there, and I feel like I get out my sample cards and I sit there and with coloured pencils and draw little designs and stuff and see what colours I like the best. So I think there's a lot of fun in planning them for me. So yeah, I have designs on knitting a couple more of those. Whether I will after knitting that is a whole other thing, but anyway, I'm loving this. It's lots of fun. So yeah. The last thing I wanted to mention is actually a little bit of a shop update. The first thing is that if you have subscribed to my newsletter, which you can do at louleigh.com, you get a coupon code for a 10% discount. And I just wanted to remind you that you can use that in my Etsy shop on bags, and you can use it in my Ravelry shop on patterns. So if you're checking out through Ravelry and buying the Simple Socks collection, you can still use that coupon code if you've signed up for the newsletter. Also, in reference to bags, I've been using some fabrics that have quite large prints on them, and so I don't always get the entire print on every bag, and I just wanted to point this out so that if you are buying a bag through the shop, that you actually are aware of exactly what you're getting. So for example, these are the bags that are going into the shop today, and this one will just have trees on. So if you see the photograph that just has trees, then that's what you can expect. But the pattern actually has this really cute little cabin on it. And so if you purchase the bag that has the trees with the cabin, this fabric is actually called Solitude, which I think is a lovely name for it. Yeah, so if the photograph shows the bag with the trees and the cabin, then that's what you're getting. And I think the other one where this is really relevant as well is the fabric that I've been using with narwhals and unicorns. Sometimes I've managed to get both on and they'll be photographed that way. The placement might vary a little, but you'll get a narwhal and a unicorn. Sometimes it might just be one or the other. So I mean, there's not usually a big rush in my shop, so you should have time to have a look so you know exactly what you're getting. But I wanted to make sure that yeah, that you I wanted to make sure that you get what you expect to get if you're ordering a bag with one of those bigger prints on it. So that's all from me for today. It's been lovely to sit and have a chat with you. If you haven't joined the Ravelry group, please come over and chat with us. It would be lovely to share some time with you there. And I hope to see you again next week. Cheerio!